In the beginning, there was nothing. And then Aronofsky said, "Let there be controversy." Darren Aronofsky's new film Noah has been surrounded by controversy all throughout production and has now reached a boiling point upon its release. However, amidst all of this arguing of artistic liberty and shouting of heresy lies a film. I went into this film expecting a historical approach based in realism akin to Charlton Heston's Ten Commandments, the traditional Noah story told through Aronofsky's compelling and imaginative visuals. This, however, is not what I got. This movie is a fantasy. It would sit on a shelf right next to Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones. There is magic, monsters, and lore, ripe for the picking, right at the outset. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. Based on the track record with these biblical or Christian-based films, I am always very nervous about the focus of these movies. However, Noah made great decisions in this regard. It is first and foremost a story, not a tool for conversion or a sermon in disguise, unlike some other films. The plot is far more complex than I anticipated. Almost all the characters had depth, and their motivations and dilemmas were well crafted. The dialogue was sharp and on point. The pacing was great for the majority of the film. However, there is a conflict on the arc that was dragged on a little too long for my taste, especially considering everyone knew where it was leading. There were also a few minor plot points that I either missed or were simply not there. Either way, it left me confused as to the origin or purpose of a few plot devices that were used. But overall, the story was rich and full with interesting ideas and messages. Its presentation was well executed. This presentation was aided by the powerful performance of Russell Crowe, who displays his character's inner conflicts with passion and zeal. Also, Jennifer Connelly, who gives life to a character that didn't have much to say, but when she spoke, she was heard. Ray Winstone portrays a ruthless yet tragic villain, who I wish was developed a little bit more, but during his screen time he delivered his dialogue excellently. My favorite character by far, though, was Methuselah, performed by Anthony Hopkins. He was an old, wise, and slightly eccentric man who only wants some berries. But underneath this unimportant demeanor, he provides wisdom and symbolism that spurs the story on to a whole new level. The rest of the supporting cast delivered good performances, but nothing that stood out like the few I mentioned. The story, however, does not receive the majority of its life from these performances. Right off the bat, the audience is immersed in Aronofsky's visuals and atmosphere. They are amazing, and in my opinion, the reason to buy a ticket. There are so many visual treats throughout this movie, but a few stand out to me. At the beginning, we are presented with a world that feels apocalyptic, out of breath and life, in dire need of rejuvenation. This, coupled with the chaos of man unbridled, develops a sense of anxiety in the viewer that calls for things to be fixed. It is wonderful design that leads to a refreshing and satisfying fulfillment in the end. Other standouts are the visions God speaks to Noah with in the film. These are incredibly vivid, creative, and entrancing. The best sequence, though, is while Noah tells the story of creation to his family that is truly a visual joyride. So while the CGI animals and blood leave something to be desired at times, overall the film is a spectacle, a visual buffet. This film gave me a different journey than I was expecting, but I traveled it in the manner that I was expecting. The story was not the traditional story told in Sunday school. It is dark and gritty, yet rejuvenating and beautiful. Your imagination is captivated by the world presented. While it does have its shortcomings in minor plot details and pacing, the story told through the visuals and characters trumps that. In spite of the darkness and desperation throughout the film, at the end I was left with ideas of love and redemption. This film is definitely worth the price of a movie ticket. Ignore the religious controversy and take it for what it is, a movie meant to take you on a journey, and it does just that.